Hi, I'm Erica Arara.
Hi, I'm David Morgan. I'm Ernesto Cardenas.
Cameron Smith.
For our Common Senior Experience project, our group will raise awareness in the greater San Diego area to get the word out about life of veterans before, during, and post-war. This is a way to produce awareness about how we should acknowledge and honor our troops more on a daily basis.
First, we plan to record and go around the school campus during lunch and ask fellow students if they know any information about veterans and PTSD. Once they say what they know, we will give a few facts about the topic and ask them if they have any questions for veterans.
We will record their questions and also give them an email to send their questions to if they think of any more after we interview them. We plan to do this in public areas such as the mall.
After that, our group will work with the veterans of foreign wars in Chula Vista to get our questions answered from the people and our own additional questions.
Finally, we are going to make a YouTube video that includes the answers to the questions the veterans have given us, along with facts and statistics about veterans and PTSD.
We will reach out to the people who have asked us questions by emailing them the video link. This project will get members of our community interested about the cause and provide a call to action in regards to recognizing the ones who have served our country.
We are now at the point in our project where we will be handing out flyers such as these to everyone so we can spread awareness on PTSD and just provide information. On the flyer, we also have our contact information for anyone who has questions or concerns.
So we're here at Otay Ranch Mall. We're gonna put flyers out on cars, spread the awareness of our project, our Common Senior Experience project.
Yep.
This is our first step in our project. Put flyers out and hopefully the public will respond to our flyers and we get the questions we need. All right.
Woo!
All right, we out here at Otay Ranch Mall about to do our project, put flyers out, you know what it is, you got this, let's go. Yeah, look at that, look at Erica, put it in work, yeah, we putting that flyer out, we know what it is, go Erica, whoop, whoop, go for the vets, yeah, let's go. We're here at the VFW here in Chula Vista, about to go interview veterans inside.
So we're about to go interview Master Chief Jerry Forbes and one of his comrades in the Navy.
We have a project called Common Senior Experience, and basically what we're doing is that we got questions from the public. We went out during school and we went to the mall and asked if anyone had questions for veterans, and then so we have these questions here. But first we're gonna start off with just more about you questions. So yeah, how old were you when you joined?
When I joined, 18.
I was 22.
Okay. What field did you work in again?
I was in electronics back in those days, which morphed into computer systems and all that.
Well, it's a little bit different. I wasn't specialized as surface line, which means I was assigned to surface ships, but did a multiple of different jobs.
Okay. Did you have to go to school to work in the field?
I went to several military schools, Navy schools. I had gone to, a high school graduate and had gone to some college before I entered. So, and that helped me get into the fields that I worked in.
So you got a college degree and then...
Well, subsequently, I've gotten 4 college degrees, so, okay.
Oh, but prior to...
No, prior to, I did not have a degree. My dad came down with terminal cancer, and family reasons, I just decided that if I left, they had one mouth less to feed, and I joined the Navy.
I had to, as a commissioned officer, we had to have a 4-year college degree before we can go in. And then after that, I had several follow-on division officer, department head command courses,
Where did you major in?
psychology.
How many years did you serve for?
22.
23.
How did you know this was something that you wanted to do?
I really didn't. I went to the Marine, I was headed to the Marine recruiter one day when I decided that, you know, I needed to go get some real job. I lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1959, and there wasn't a lot of big open career things. I was going to be a laborer somewhere, and so I decided to go and join up with the military, and I went to the Marine recruiter office, and as I was going down the hallway, I ran into 3 guys that had graduated from the same high school I had that were going into the Navy, so I decided to join the Navy. 4 of us might as well go and set it again.
You know something
Yeah.
when you're getting beaten up. It's family heritage.
What was the most impactful event that you experienced?
That's almost impossible.
Wow.
Yeah, the initial most biggest impact was boot camp, because there was no way that you could possibly be ready for that. I mean, it really wasn't. You know, they show you movies where there's the big physical beatings and those kind of things. It was physically stressing, but it was also both emotional and mental stressing, just because you were thrown into a completely different culture than you had ever been. Like, I had never been anywhere other than Minnesota. So it was a traumatic experience. And then after that, you went through things, I guess, culminating with the war in Vietnam.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I went through recruit training in the Coast Guard, and then I went to the Navy and got my commission and went through training there. It's a big lifestyle change. I mean, you're thrown in with 60, 80 other guys from all different backgrounds. And you have to learn to get together and work together, because eventually one of those guys might be the one that saves your life.
Are you still in contact with your military comrades?
Most of them are dead. I do have friends right there in Chula Vista that I served with in the Navy and you know, across the country. So yeah, I'm in contact with them. But in fact, a lot of them are dead. Well, I'm 75 years old, so are my contemporaries, and a lot of them have passed on.
Has your perspective of the military changed from the time you joined?
That's a hard question.
Yeah, you guys are getting pretty deep here.
That's a hard question.
It's, my attitudes are very strong pro-military, and were and still are. The military has changed, and for the most part has been an improvement. It's just technology has changed things. So, but the perspective still is, okay, now I'm going to put on my flag and all this. You know, as an American citizen, we all have a responsibility to serve the people of the country in whatever way we can. And so I think that the military continues to be a good way to do that service.
Yeah, it's an absolute necessity. I mean, when I went in, it was something I thought was something that needed to be done. It has, just like Jerry said, it's changed a lot. And some things, in my opinion, for the good, some things not so good, but it's a necessary thing. If we want to have our way of life and do the things that we want to do, and we've seen different parts of the world where you don't have those kinds of freedoms. The military is just a necessary way to defend that.
Do you personally connect with homelessness in Chula Vista? Or San Diego?
Yeah, I guess I do. I guess I'm a little cynical because a lot of people that I've personally dealt with, the homeless people that I've personally dealt with, really would rather stay like they are than go to a shelter or go to any kind of a work program or, you know, those kind of things. And it's a combination of, I think, and this is just my opinion, but I think there's a combination of some mental health problems plus a little drug problems. And treating them good and putting them in shelters isn't doing them any good. You've got to do something else to lower the problem. Because of our weather, our climate, we're one of the biggest areas hit with it. The bad news is that we've got a lot of veterans out there on the street. The worst news is that a lot of them want to stay there. So.
I don't really have a whole lot of personal involvement. I mean, we do help out. I've got work with the food bank. I've got when they have what the city calls stand down. We go out and help with that. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot of interaction.
Do you think the government is taking care of the interests of veterans?
No.
Do you think they do?
Yes.
What do you?
Those are two of the simplest questions you've asked.
Exactly.
What do you want to change? What do you want the government to recognize?
The biggest, okay, that's another simple question. The biggest problem with the government is bureaucracy. They're too involved in paperwork and all that stuff and not really involved in solving the problems. So I don't have an easy fix for it, but you know, quit spending billions of dollars on this administrative echelon that you created and actually get the money to the people that need it.
That's a fact, and then a lot of it comes down to focus on the issues rather than collecting a paycheck. You know, what's really going on? How hard is it to fix? Well, it's not hard to fix if you put the money where it belongs. If I'm able to, as a government, send $1 billion off to some faraway country that nobody's ever heard of and probably can't even spell it, I can afford to keep that money in the pocket where it belongs. Department of Veterans Affairs is struggling. Why? Because the money's not there. Well, why? Because they give it away to somebody else. We don't know who they are.
Okay, we'll end it with this question. In your experience, what is one of the biggest differences you see between a civilian's and a veteran's perspective of the military?
Well, the obvious difference is well, there's two sides to the military now. You have the guy that goes into the military on a single enlistment and spends anywhere from 2 to 6 years on the initial enlistment. He's there in the short term and he is somewhat dedicated, but he's really looking towards the future and what he's going to do after that enlistment. Maybe those of us that stayed longer, maybe we drank the Kool-Aid and we're some kind of a cult or something, I don't know. But we honestly, at least on my part, I honestly went in and spent my time for 22 years in the military because I was dedicated to the efforts of the military and what we were doing in all situations. There are a lot. What hurts the image of the military is that people tend to overemphasize the wartime efforts of the military and ignore the peacetime efforts. The times that the USS Mercy is over in the Tsunami area of Indonesia with all kinds of doctors over there taking care of these people that were homeless because of the tsunamis and that kind of stuff. And different humanitarian efforts like that going on. And in my 22 years, I probably spent maybe a quarter of what I spent on the downside, on the war side, whether it was actual war or intelligence gathering, that kind of stuff. And the other 3/4 of the time was spent on humanitarian efforts. So that's something that should be emphasized more, you know.
I think that the biggest difference between a civilian's viewpoint and a service member's viewpoint is experience. Somebody looking at a job from the outside, the military is just a job. It's a different kind of a job. There's a lot of goods and there's a lot of bads to every job that you do. But somebody who's looking at it from the outside, has never experienced it, doesn't really know what it's like, and they may form opinions based on observation rather than experience. In my job currently, a lot of people say, well, how could you do that? It's just a job. To me, it's experience. I know what I'm doing. It's very easy for me to do. And to me, it's service. Well, it's the same thing with the military. If you don't know what it is, you don't know what's going on. All you see is the ships going away or the troops getting on the airplanes or whatever, going off to some faraway land someplace. You don't really know what's happening. And when you, like Jerry was saying, when we go out on deployments on the ships, a lot of times we're playing, if we're not out on a wartime footing, we're still out there watching, we're still out there taking care of business, we're still out there defending freedom, and honestly, it might sound like just a phrase, but we're really out there doing that. A lot of what we're doing, we pull into these foreign ports. We have projects that we do, building schools, building homes, taking care of different things, maybe repairing something. Groups go out and do things like that. It's not just go out and waste a bunch of money and pretend that you've got something to do. We've got something to do. We're doing it every day, and sometimes long hours. It's not uncommon when we get out and people don't realize it. You get out there, and you might be 2 or 3 days before you see your bid because you're just that busy. And there's a lot of stuff going on. And see, the other side of the coin being is that civilian, they say, well, you get out there and they take care of you. Well, that's great. However, when you see like the ships like the Coral Sea, or you've got a battleship museum someplace, something like that, and you say, well, we can solve the homeless issue. We have all these ships that are being decommissioned. Why don't we just permanently weld them to the pier and we put people on them? You know, Housing and Urban Development says that's not suitable housing for human habitation, but they send 5,000 guys on an aircraft carrier overseas for 9-10 months. My shortest deployment in working when I first went out was 14 months. but it's suitable for us.
I got two things I'd like to add real quick. Just on that last note, he said, the Governor Jerry Brown in his previous routes, during his term as governor, it was actually promoted that they take a carrier that was being decommissioned and anchor it out here by San Clemente Island, which is 65 miles west of here, and made that a prison. And the State Prison Bureau went aboard the ship and decided that the living conditions, which us sailors had lived in for years, were considered cruel and unusual punishment. They couldn't put prisoners in that situation. The second thing is there is an upside to all of this stuff.
Sure.
Military duties, for me, allowed me to visit all 50 states in the United States and about 110 countries in the world. I've been on 6 of the 7 continents. I missed Antarctica. But I went to SeaWorld and saw the penguins. So there are benefits to a military life and all that kind of stuff too. And for somebody that doesn't have the opportunity to attend college, there are education benefits that can be received by doing military duty and that kind of stuff. So, and both of us we have full health coverage because of our retirement from the military. So there's a lot of good parts of it too.
There's tons. I had a ball.
And most of us had a good
never
time.
retired.
And we really don't remember the bad times nearly as much as we remember the good times. So,
Thank you.
all right.
How old were you when you joined the military?
I was 20 years old when I joined the United States Marine Corps.
What specific field did you work in?
I worked in a couple of fields. I did a lot of administrative work, but then I also worked in civilian affairs. Specifically when I got activated, because I was a reservist, and I got activated in 2003 to go to Iraq, and they had me work with civil affairs. And so we were in charge of going out into towns and assessing areas through a translator, speaking to the local residents of the area, the local tribal leaders, to assess damage, assess for needs, assess for health care, among other things.
Did you have to go to school to work in your field?
Yes, they sent us to, I believe, from what I remember, it was like a 2-month school out in Camp Johnson in North Carolina, and we did some training there. And then before I deployed to Iraq, we had, it was a quick 2-week refresher course, and so where they told us about Iraq, the land, the people, the language, things like that.
How many years did you serve for?
So, as a reservist, you serve 8 total years, 6 in what's called active reserve, 2 in inactive. For 6 of those months, I was activated to do my full duty. I mean, it was full duty in Iraq. So all in all, it was 8 years, 6 and 2 contract.
How did you know this is something you wanted to do?
I wanted the challenge. In high school you hear about the Marines and how tough their boot camp is, and I wanted to see if I could, prove myself.
How is your service in the military affected by your family and community?
How is the service affected by the family and community? Well, when you're wearing that uniform, or when, for example, I got deployed, I felt that I was representing my family. I felt like I was representing my local town. And similarly to, say, our high school athletes, when they have their uniform, they're representing the Olympian community. I felt that I was representing my family in how I served when I served.
What was the most impactful event that you experienced?
Iraq.
Alright.
Definitely, there are different aspects of it. The mission was unclear, it really was, but seeing the active duty side of the military left one of the biggest impressions in my mind. I saw true camaraderie. I saw true teamwork. I valued and treasured the people that I worked with out there. We really looked out for each other, and I saw how efficient our military is, and how the Marines work with the Army, we work with the Navy, we all work together, you know, and you see that in full display. It was an amazing thing, and luckily, you know, I want to be sensitive to certain members that didn't have the experience that I had out there, because you know, I respect everyone's service and how they served our country, but I had an awesome experience.
How about how has your perspective of the military changed from the time before you joined the military and after?
Definitely. With just like in any organization, you have people that, you know, they do the right thing. You know, they serve with honor, you know, with courage, with commitment. And, you know, unfortunately, I also saw that, hey, maybe the military wasn't for everyone. You know, there are certain people that I served with that, you know, weren't 100% dedicated, you know, but for the most part they were. And so I got a realistic view of the military. But one thing that I will say is I would never exchange that experience for anything, no regrets.
Are you still in contact with any of your military comrades?
A couple. I mean, it's been since 2003. That's when I got out, so it's been some time. But from time to time, I'll still get some emails, and they'll have some type of barbecue or something like that. Or I may just email back just to see how they're doing. Hey, are you still with the sheriff's, you know, department? Things like that. How's your wife? So it's minimal, but the contact is still there.
Have you had personal encounters with PTSD in any form?
No, just I felt a little funk when I got back from Iraq. It lasted for about 3 months. It didn't go past that, but I went through this process where if people asked me about my experience right when I had gotten back from Iraq, this was September of '03, and if people asked me something like, oh, you know, how was it out there? And you always get the insensitive question, did you kill someone? And I would think, how insensitive of that person, you know? But then if people didn't ask me, I was equally upset. I was equally bothered. It's like, hey, you know, I served, you know, and I don't think that had anything to do with PTSD or anything like that, but those are some feelings that I experienced when I got back. Over there, despite the wonderful experiences I had, you're always on alert, full alert, because at any time something can go very, very, very bad. And when I was here, there were a couple times if I heard that or a sharp, quick sound, I would react, I would jump. And it was a little embarrassing being in front of people or being at my son's soccer practice, we're talking with friends, and you know, I jerk off of every little reaction. So it took me some time, it took me about 3 months just to get myself reoriented back to, you know, to orient myself back to just civilian life, and not that I'm always on alert, I'm always watching, and you know, I have an M16 right beside me all the time. There was a transition, but I don't think it had anything to do with PTSD.
Is it difficult to come home after being deployed for so long?
It was only 6 months, but one of the things that I can tell you was that you have this weird feeling, or I don't know if it's a weird feeling, but you have this feeling that you can get back to your life and other people haven't kept living their lives, and you realize that, and it kind of messes with your head a bit. It was like, hey, I was over there, and people were saying, yeah, and I had to do this, this, and that. I kept on with my life. And there's this sense that you feel like everything back home should stop.
Yeah.
So that when you get back, it's just like you left it.
Mm-hmm.
But you realize that's not the case, you know? So that was about it.
In your experience, what is one of the biggest differences you've seen between the civilians and veterans' perspective on the world, the country, or military service?
One of the one of my experiences has been with people that were in the military or are in the military. They see a rank structure. They see hierarchy in the world. They understand that, okay, there's a bigger purpose here. The person above me is telling me something for a purpose, and we trust that, sometimes blindly. Where in a civilian world, you don't operate like that. You do. It's important to question things. It's when someone asks you to do something, you want the rationale behind. Well, why am I supposed to do this? What purpose is it serving? Where my experience in the Marine Corps, I didn't get to ask that. I just said, yes, sir, and you carried out whatever it is that you were told to do. And then I see that, and so when I first started working as a teacher, everything was, yes, sir, I'll do it, without necessarily wondering, hey, why are we doing this, and is this decision the best thing for our students, etc. And so there is that difference that I've noticed.
What is the greatest lesson you derived from military service?
How to find toilet paper. So there was this one time in boot camp where my drill instructor said that we were out of toilet paper, and I kind of gave him a look like, what am I supposed to do about that? And he looked back at me. I think he was reading my mind, and he said, your job is to go get our bathrooms stocked with toilet paper. We call them heads. And he said, and just get out of my face. And so when he took, what I wanted to do is question, like, why are you asking me? Where am I supposed to get toilet paper? There's no way I can get toilet paper. You're asking the wrong guy. I can't do this. When he eliminated that I can't, I had to think, I had to problem solve. I had to figure it out. And it took me about a minute to figure out that across the street there were some empty barracks, and there were probably heads there with a bunch of toilet paper. And I remember I went over there, and sure enough, I acquired some toilet paper. I brought it back. I stocked our bathroom, and it taught me one of the biggest lessons in life, which was, we often, we're quick when we're asked to do something or we have to do something. We put all these obstacles in front of us, instead of just thinking for some time on how we can do it versus there's no way I can do this. And that by far was the best lesson that I was taught in the military.
So people say that military service is a sacrifice and that the family members of military members also have to make sacrifices. Is that accurate?
Yeah, but in anything you do, you make a daily sacrifice. You're sacrificing time away from your loved ones, whether it's in the military or whether it's being a teacher or, a firefighter or wherever you work at. You're making a sacrifice ultimately for your family, and yeah, the military is like that, and sometimes in the military they make the ultimate sacrifice.
Veterans often say about military service, especially combat, it's not like you see in the movies. Have you seen a movie, television show, or other media presentations of military service that struck you as especially accurate? How do you say that word?
Especially? Exceptionally accurate? No, I can't say that. I was never in Iraq. I wasn't in full combat. We were attacked through mortar rounds, and that was a lot of running into a bunker and covering up. The idea of being fully alert all the time, I don't know if I can think of any movie. Like, I think of Saving Private Ryan, but I didn't experience what happened there on the landing of Normandy Beach, so I'm not sure that I can give you a good answer for that.
Those are all the questions that we have for you. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Just like I said, for me personally, being a young man who didn't have a lot of direction early on, the Marine Corps really taught me, how to become a young man and how to do things for myself, how to start accomplishing things, and what they instilled in me, it'll live forever, and it's helped me go on to school, graduate from college. You know, it's helped me enter a profession that I love and stay at that profession and work hard at that profession. And I got that from my military experience. I didn't get that from my sports. I got that from that short time that, you know, these role models instilled values in me. That's it.
Well, thank you for your time, Salazar.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
By interviewing veterans, I learned that the veterans are willing to take the consequences of going into war and leaving their families to save our country.
I've learned to see things in both the perspectives of civilians and veterans about the positive and negative effects of war.
I learned that veterans know that the government isn't doing everything they can to help them, and that the VA is something that needs to get fixed.
I learned that not every veteran is quote-unquote Rambo. Every veteran, some veterans have seen combat, some veterans have not, but